Hello and welcome to another episode of The Brothers Discuss. I'm Alex,
And I'm Chris.
and it's been a while since we've done one of these, but I figure we'll do a little catching up episode, just catch up on some news and some movies and shows we've watched. So let's get into the news, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay, so with regards to Star Wars, recently James Earl Jones has announced that he is retiring from the role of Darth Vader. But I guess the real news here is that he's been retired for some time. So in Obi-Wan, it was not him at all. So
It was computer generated Darth Vader.
yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I gotta say real quick, James Earl Jones, his voice he sounds super ancient now.
Yeah.
I mean that in the nicest way possible. Like, if you've seen, like, the Lion King remake, yeah, it's not... Simba!
Simba?
It's not what it used to be. And I think back to his performance in Rogue One, where he sounded super old, but it was at least him, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Be careful not to choke on your ass.
Be careful not to choke on your ass.
He sounded really old, and so I understand that it's probably time to hang it up, but this is the new thing now. You know, speaking of Rogue One, they CGI'd Grand Moff Tarkin, and that's just the thing. Like, nowadays, we're just seeing more and more use of AI-generated performances, and I don't like that very much.
It's scary because how long are they going to keep using these characters? Because, like, if we can do that with technology now, then all Star Wars is going to be in the next, 20, 30 years. It's going to be continuing stories of Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker because we already have AI voices for both of them. And so it's a frightening sight for that. And we can't how hard is it to just get something new in Star Wars? So
Well, I will say, I mean, I don't have it on the list for discussing it today, but are you watching Andor right now?
I am, and I'm quite enjoying it because
I am
it's
too.
not a nostalgia fest. And even when there is nostalgia, it's like played just so like it's just part of this world. Like it's not like a build up or anything. It's just like, oh, there's Saw Gerrera. He's just there.
Yeah.
It's done really well.
Yeah, we're not going to discuss it right now because it's still ongoing, but it's really good stuff so far. But anyways, back to AI performances here. Yeah, I guess my thing is that with acting or just looking at a performance, it's a combination of, like, a person, of an actor's choices of what they do with the role, as well as it's a combination of the writing as well to create a work of art. But the important thing is that there is the human element, and a person's choices from an acting perspective, like, that's something that cannot be replicated with a computer.
Yeah, it's like it's just the little things. The devil's in the details, and like, but for me, it's just a big issue just on a story level. Do we really need more Darth Vader? Like, I feel like we haven't really needed him since 1983, but we keep getting him.
Yeah. And I guess James Earl Jones might sign a thing that says, yeah, use my voice, whatever. Like, as long as it's me playing Darth Vader in some form. Maybe that's what he wants. I don't know.
You
But
could
it's
do that
weird.
now. Like when Rogue One came out, and it's obviously Peter Kushner. Is that who played Tarkin?
Peter Cushing.
Oh, okay.
Close, though.
Yeah, close. Obviously, like, he didn't. That was not even a concept. When original Star Wars came out, it was you could resurrect dead actors using visual effects. So there's that, like, moral kind of side of all of this, which you can do now that you have that technology and you still have some of these actors that are still alive. But again, how necessary is this really? Like, when are we just going to get new things? Why do we have to keep going back to Darth Vader?
Yeah, and like I said, it's the little choices an actor will make, like the little idiosyncrasies that someone will put in their voice. Like there's just decisions that an actor makes that a computer won't. And going back to the Rogue One performance, like Vader sounds ancient, but he sounds sassy when he's talking to Krennic. And that's a choice James Earl Jones made. Like a computer ain't gonna do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so all right, with this little news section, I kept it a little small because this next one's gonna probably dominate this whole podcast. Maybe we're at the main event. I'm sure most people assumed we would talk about this because it's us. I talk about X-Men a lot on this show. It just happens. Ryan Reynolds put out a video on his Twitter talking about Deadpool 3. And we've known they were going to make a Deadpool 3 for a while. With the Fox purchase from Disney, it was up in the air for a while. And they did their test run of a PG-13 Deadpool with that re-release of Deadpool 2. And I don't know how that did. I don't know if it was good or not, but they said they're going to make Deadpool 3. And he's talking about how he's been working hard trying to figure out the right story introducing Deadpool into the MCU. He uses those words, which is interesting wording because I think people are misinterpreting that as in him joining the mainline continuity, and I don't think that's what's happening here. I'm not really a big fan of Ryan Reynolds, like just the type of films that he makes. As a person, I'm sure he's a swell guy. He seems like a real nice fella. Like that's what everyone says about him.
Yeah.
His sense of humor, not for me. But it's like a typical, it almost looks like a drug commercial of him walking in the forest in the fall, and then you see him making coffee, and in slow motion, he's pouring vodka in there. And that's pretty funny.
It's a bit mobile commercial, because, like, doesn't he own that?
Does he?
I think so. He owns, like, some sort of tech thing.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. But he says he's got no ideas. And then I guess Hugh Jackman is walking up the stairs in the background, and he asks him if he wants to return as Wolverine, and he says yes. So Hugh Jackman is returning as Wolverine in Deadpool 3.
And that fucking sucks.
So go ahead. What do you think? You've met Hugh Jackman. You've got some personal stake in this. Maybe you can convince him otherwise.
I kind of just want this, like, nostalgia high for Marvel to just go away. Like, Toby and Andrew, No Way Home, like, yeah, it was nice to see them. It was, their characters were played well, and, like, they were written well, and their roles in the movie wasn't just, ultimately, yes, like, the whole point of them was just the gimmick of having the three of them there. But they wrote into the story nicely. The thing is, though, with No Way Home is that, like, I almost wish it was just Tom's Spider-Man just kind of figuring this out on his own, because that, to me, was the best part of the movie, is that, like, now Tom's Spider-Man feels like Spider-Man to me. I don't, like, it's nice to see Toby and Andrew, but they don't really need to be in the movie. And same with Charlie Cox and She-Hulk, which I'm sure we'll talk about more, but, like, it's like, when are we just, it's completely besides the fact that, yeah, you're kind of undermining a terrific finale for the character of Wolverine with Logan, which, by the way, can I just say, like, one of my least favorite words that has come out of Marvel recently? It is the word variant. I am so fucking sick of hearing that word. Like, and like, I see, like, Marvel theory posts all the time on, like, Instagram or stuff like that, and it's like, well, here's the variant of Wolverine coming in Deadpool 3, and it's like, something about it just completely just undermines the characters from, like, where they came from. It makes them feel, like, less special and unique, and just more like, it's just a different version of this character. So I don't care how this fits into the whole timeline of things. I know, like they said, Logan died in Logan. We're not touching on that. He's back though. It doesn't matter if this is like before Logan. It's like it's still. Do we need to see this happen? And I know like we're not the biggest Deadpool guys. That type of humor has never really approached us. But like even just on the standpoint of a Deadpool and Wolverine team up movie, something about it I just don't get the hype about it. It's less about the hype of that concept and more of just Wolverine is back. That's the selling point of this movie. It doesn't really need to be a Deadpool 3. Wolverine's just back now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you're saying. I have actually expected for a while now that he was going to come back for something in the MCU. I've been ready for this announcement. I wasn't expecting Deadpool 3, but I've actually been prepared for this for some time. And like you said, they did the video the next day where he was saying, look, he dies in Logan. Right? We're not touching that. That's set in the future, and there's all this other time in between. And they said that as if it was meant to be like, good, it's not ruining Logan. But that was never my thoughts. What was it that Mr. Krabs said? Am I really going to defile this grave for money? Of course I am.
It's like, we're not talking about continuity here. It's strictly like it happened. That movie's released. Logan dies, and like that character is coming back. Regardless of what the timeline says, you're bringing that actor, you're bringing that character back. Whether it's before Logan, it's still happening.
Yeah, it's like, it's not like, oh, they're fucking up the timeline, you're going to come back to life. Like, that wasn't my thought at all. It's the fact that he had a perfect send-off, and now he's just doing something else afterwards. And it's like, and at least with Patrick Stewart in Multiverse of Madness, it was, oh, we're going to put him in a yellow chair. It's going to be a cameo. A cameo is whatever, but this is a whole movie.
Yeah.
And if he was coming back for a cameo, I would have rolled my eyes. But if it was just a cameo, like the First Class cameo, I probably wouldn't have much of a problem with it.
Yeah.
But this is a whole movie. And I'm kind of past the point of caring about him coming back because I have expected it. So whatever. Is this all that we want? Just constant, oh, people I know. I guess I'm just tired. Like, that's all I'll say. Like, I'm disappointed, but I'm not angry. It's just kind of like, sure, who's next? Like, what's the next thing they're bringing back?
Oh, they'll get Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans from the Marvel grave. They'll get them back for the Avengers movies. One more thing I want to like add to all of this is that ever since like Marvel's been bringing back all these characters from like different franchises and everything, there's been this big swell of like I hate to say like fake fan base, but there's like these fans that like all of a sudden hold these movies and these franchises to like a pedestal. It's like when like Dark Phoenix came out, no one gave a shit about the X-Men franchise. And then there were like little, things here and there when like Evan Peters was in WandaVision, and it's like, oh, the people started going back to like the X-Men movies and just, holding those movies to the standard. And like it's happening again with Wolverine. It's like same with like Andrew Garfield. It's like the Amazing Spider-Man movies, when they came out, were like notorious for how bad they were. And all of a sudden they're cherished. They're held to a pedestal by the Marvel fans. And I saw this with Charlie Cox. Like I actually saw someone post these words about like how you hear his theme play in his episode of She-Hulk. And he actually said, it's like, well, I haven't watched the Netflix series yet. This still gave me chills. And I'm like, okay.
What?
Right? I mean, like, okay. And it's so, I mean, luckily it's Daredevil. Daredevil does deserve to be held to a pedestal, but still, it's odd.
Yeah, it's not even. It goes beyond this. Like I'm thinking like at D23 recently, they had confirmed that with the Captain America movie, they announced that the leader is going to be the villain, and it's like, huh? And then there's rumors online that She-Hulk may apparently be in the movie, and maybe the Hulk as well. It's like, well, then it's not a Captain America movie anymore. Now it's a Hulk movie.
Yeah, because
And
Harrison Ford's General Ross now.
that's
Another
right.
fan cast that worked.
And I was just feeling nostalgic recently for Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, not just because I love those movies, but just because at the time when those movies were coming out, like that was Batman to people. Like
Mhm.
that this was Batman, this was Joker. And same thing with the 90s, like this is Batman, this is Joker. And now we have a new take on Batman with Robert Pattinson. It's really interesting, to each his own if you don't think so, but you're wrong. Um, but at the same time is that you also have these people that are also fixated on past versions of Batman. They're like, we want this Batman to come back and this. It just becomes so diluted. And it's like
Yeah.
same thing with like when She-Hulk was coming out, like a few episodes in, people were complaining that Daredevil's not in it, even though he was in the trailer. And it's just you're just excited for the one thing, and then like the thing is like they're bringing back lots of people and franchises, but like the window is starting to get a lot smaller now. Like we even got to the point they brought back Andrew Garfield, who last played Spider-Man in 2014, just 2 years before the current Spider-Man made his debut.
Yeah.
And like even like the hype for like the new Flash movie. I mean, now there's more going on with that movie, but the hype around it is Michael Keaton Batman. Michael Keaton Batman. Meanwhile, Ben Affleck Batman was in it as well, and we also have Robert Pattinson doing his own thing. Like
Yeah.
when Spider-Man No Way Home came out, people were like, "What if they do a Batman movie like this someday?" And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
man, I would hate for them to mess up Dark Knight Rises.
Yep. That's the big thing.
Then I was thinking about it, and at that point, like if they ever do this movie, it'll be like 20 years since Dark Knight Rises.
Oh God, you're right.
Yeah,
Oh man.
and I know like the headcanon is like you could just ignore this. Like the popular thing is the headcanon, just like ignore something. Like Star Wars fans do this all the time apparently. Well, I guess not because people still won't shut up about the sequel trilogy. But I guess well, actually I take that back. I will say with Star Wars, I definitely don't think that way so much anymore. Like now if I watch original Star Wars and they bring up the Kessel Run or Leia on the little recording on R2D2, like you served my father in the Clone Wars, like now I'm thinking of all the stuff they've messed with since then. So I actually don't have that with Star Wars anymore.
Yeah.
There was another point I was going to bring up. Yeah, D23 and the stuff with the leader. Another example to me is they announced the lineup of the Thunderbolts, and people were disappointed that there wasn't much star power there. And I couldn't help but think, like, well, what were you expecting? Like, this is what they've been building to, like, ever so slightly. I mean, we talked about this on our Comic-Con episode. Like, I basically like predicted all these guys, even Taskmaster and Ghost and Red Guardian, who were smaller characters. Like, I think maybe the character I predicted that isn't there is Abomination and Kate Bishop. And
Yeah.
granted, there is still time to announce them. But
True.
then I read that people are sad that the Punisher isn't there and Elektra's not there. And it's like, oh, you just want people that you recognize. Like, you just want the moment where you can cheer because it's someone that you know, and it's pathetic. Like,
Yeah.
and what you got instead is like what a friend of mine described them as. It's just a bunch of leftovers, and
Yeah,
it's like,
pretty much.
and yeah, that's what it should be. Like, it shouldn't be a bunch of A-list characters. It shouldn't be the Avengers. It shouldn't be the Justice League. That's probably a better one because Avengers had Hawkeye and Black Widow, who were smaller on the totem pole compared to Iron Man and Thor and Cap and Hulk.
Right.
But it should be more of a ragtag team.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, it just goes to show that these fans just don't care about the story. They just want like the equivalent of the portal scene in Endgame. Like, never mind the fact that that moment took like 11 years to get to.
Right?
Like,
Yeah.
think about this. What rational thinking person right now is thinking, yeah, I want Eric Bana's Hulk to team up with the 2015 Fantastic Four? Or like Michael Chiklis has to meet Paul Rudd. But actually, that one's true. That one is something I've been campaigning for a long time. Like, just the
Yeah.
actors, not even the Thing and Ant-Man, just the actors running into each other on the street.
Right.
I guess one final thing with the Wolverine announcements. I was thinking, what's left for Hugh to do? He did Weapon X. He did the Japanese saga. He was the main character in Days of Future Past. They did Old Man Logan. What's the only thing he has left to do?
What is it?
It's Patch. And it's also like the original yellow costume as well.
Oh yeah. Well, they have to.
And I guess yeah, and I guess it's like similar to what they did with Patrick Stewart and Doctor Strange. Everyone's going to go, well, why didn't he have this the whole time? It's because he can't fit through doors. Okay, let's get into other superhero content. I don't like using the word content because that sounds like a very kind of influencer YouTuber thing, but I guess that's the most appropriate phrase for it. Like these are definitely more like content, especially one of them. It's like, we got to put something on the streaming service, god damn it. So let's talk about
Right,
She-Hulk.
Yeah. All right.
What did you think of She-Hulk now that it's wrapped up?
Now that's wrapped up and after everything we just said, I really like She-Hulk. And it's amazing because everyone hates She-Hulk, but I thought the show was delightful. Yes, there's a lot of fan service, there's a lot of cameos, and while like, that's not my cup of tea, like I thought it was just fun to see these characters, but overall, I like this show because it is not just this over-bloated empty shell that a lot of these Marvel shows have been. I think I've probably had to say this 100 times at this point that like Loki, Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, like all of these shows, have promising starts. They have intriguing, just like character beats going on, and then it is followed up by like 5 episodes of nothing. Literally just nothing but characters have to do this to prevent the bad guy from doing this because he wants to rule the world. Like, and it's that's just frustrating. So when I see She-Hulk and I watch She-Hulk and it's actually a show and there's actually character development and growth going on about a character that accepts 2 worlds and isn't trying to hide one of them, I found it delightful. Not only that, it was just entertaining. No episode just felt like I was watching 40 minutes just pass by on TV. It felt, it was entertaining, and it was, I mean, I have my complaints with it, but fuck you, Marvel fans. This is what a Marvel show is supposed to look like, and I don't care if you think the ending is dumb or just the whole show is dumb. I thought it was wonderful.
So I'm glad you brought up Moon Knight because I want to go on record right now. In retrospect, in hindsight, I hate Moon Knight. I think it's terrible.
I kind of agree with you too, because like when Moon Knight first started, here's the thing, I don't remember much from the show. Just
I don't
because
either.
It was just so stretched out.
And I don't even remember Miss Marvel.
Exactly. It's like most of these things are just so stretched out. It's like, I guess I'll just go over Marvel TV right now and just like my overall thoughts on each show very briefly.
Sure.
WandaVision, I loved. It's still my favorite Marvel show that's come out since this new era of like Disney Plus Marvel shows. Also, it's still my favorite thing in Phase 4. But, everybody hates it because it's actually a show. Anyways, I love WandaVision. I love Falcon the Winter Soldier because those had characters that were doing stuff for themselves. There was actually character growth, and it was exciting to see where they were going or to uncover what happened to them. And it's just like that's how you do it. Loki's so frustrating with me. I've like gone everywhere with that show possible. I thought it was really neat when it, like finished, and then 15 minutes later I thought, okay, never mind, this actually kind of sucks. And I thought it sucked even more until I saw Eternals. I've had like a whole roller coaster with that show. But whatever, it was intriguing, and then it just went nowhere. What If? Cool concept, but I wish it was less of a Marvel movie and more of just wacky stories being told. Hawkeye is like kind of an outlier for me because it does kind of fall into the trap of this is just too much. Like it just feels like it's just too overbloated. But I like the charm and style of Hawkeye more so than like Moon Knight is just so dour and depressing to get through, and it's just like there's just no joy, there's no charm, there's no anything. It's just like, oh, we have to stop this guy from doing this thing. And I like the first episode of Moon Knight, and I think like just as a whole, the best things I can say about Moon Knight is that Oscar Isaac is really good at playing what is essentially two different characters. And it feels very detached from everything happening in Marvel, which I thought was nice. As just a grand picture of Moon Knight, those are like the only things I liked about it. The story is just stuff happening on screen. Oh, God, I fucking hate it so much. Anyways, that's my rant.
There we go. All right, so on that note, with She-Hulk for me. Okay, so I remember when I watched the first episode of She-Hulk, I thought to myself, I was interested to see where it goes. I was kind of excited for the show. Like, okay, I want to tamper that a little bit. Excited is a relative term. I was interested in watching the show. And I will say the biggest positive I think for She-Hulk is that it was a TV show. Like,
yeah.
Like you said, like the problem with so many of these Disney Plus Marvel shows is at the end you think like that could have been a movie, or there's a filler episode here, or there's like too much crammed into the finale. Like I really enjoyed Hawkeye, but that finale has like 5 different plot points that they need to wrap up.
Yeah.
And it feels very messy as a result. Now this one, I don't think it stuck the landing with the finale the way other people do. I definitely don't think it did. And
that's interesting because I've heard quite the opposite. I've heard like that the finale ruins the show that was already ruined for a bunch of people.
Now, wasn't it Simon Pegg who said She-Hulk was the best thing Marvel did since Endgame? Like, does he watch the rest of this stuff? I don't know.
Did he actually say that?
He said that.
I did not know that.
All right, so
kind of agree with that stylistically, but
all right, I'll just get into it. I joked ages back, like maybe when the show was first announced, like, will they do what they do in the comics where she breaks the fourth wall and she's like popping out of comic book covers saying, buy my issue, don't buy the X-Men or whatever. And I joked, do you think she'll walk around the Disney lots? And I went, no, I think that would go too far.
She fucking does it.
Well, I guess it wasn't, because like the fourth wall breaking and the self-aware superhero stuff, like it isn't really my taste. Like Deadpool isn't my taste. Like I sort of prefer the way the self-aware nature of the boys handles that. Like that's kind of more my taste if you're going to do that. Whereas with She-Hulk blatantly saying, hey, we're Marvel, we do this all the time and it sucks and you're an idiot for liking it. It's just, I don't get that at all. Like that's weird to me. Like I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that's weird, and I just didn't really care for the fourth wall breaking stuff like the longer it went.
I thought the fourth wall breaking was kind of like awkward at first. over time as the show went on, like I kind of got more used to it, and it kind of got a little funnier. But I can kind of agree with you there. Yeah.
My thing is, it's very inconsistent, I thought. Like, and people will be mad at people complaining about this because it doesn't have to make sense. It's fourth wall breaking. But
Yeah.
I think it has to draw the line somewhere. Like, she makes jokes about the Edward Norton Hulk, and in that finale, she's talking about knowing that the MCU is a thing, but she also didn't know who Daredevil was when he showed up, or Matt Murdock. It's like, oh, that's inconsistent. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know why that has to be that way. Like, I don't know. Like that sort of thing sticks out to me, but maybe it doesn't to other people.
Right.
And I was just thinking about this actually. I do like the moment where she pops out of Disney Plus. But it made me think, like, if they ever release these on physical media, would they change that to a DVD menu?
I was kind of thinking of the context of like, as like more stuff comes out, are they ever just gonna go back and like update that Disney Plus, display thing?
Yeah, would they
It's
make
gonna change, it's gonna
yeah,
change eventually, but
would they make a new one just purely for updates or a physical release?
maybe.
I will say though, like them making fun of the visual effects, like it just came out at the wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah,
If it were
that
up to
was
me, that was
tough.
bad. Like they should have redone that. That was in poor taste.
Could have cut it out. They didn't need
Yeah.
to have the chick in there.
Yeah, I think my feelings for this are definitely much stronger than yours. With She-Hulk, what I got most frustrated by was that there's a lot of stuff that I really liked, and then there's other stuff I really wasn't into. Like, it wasn't my taste, so that's a frustrating experience where I'm like, I like this and I like this, but I really don't like this. Like, that's where it can be rough. Like, I'm never going to sit down and watch this again, probably, but to quickly wrap up my thoughts on the fourth wall breaking thing, it's not necessarily that I don't like fourth wall breaking. I should clarify. There are shows that do it and do it really well. Like when we talked about the trailer for this, like a few episodes back, I mentioned Fleabag. Like it does it incredibly well. I and I'm not praising Kevin Spacey when I say this, but House of Cards in the early seasons of that, or rather the first two seasons of it that I watched, I thought the fourth wall breaking in that was fun. And it's not like Spacey's character was aware he was in a show. Same thing with Fleabag, but they are talking to the audience. Like that's
Yeah.
where it sort of crosses the line a little bit. But if you also want to play up that she has no idea who Matt Murdock is, that's when it starts to fall apart logic-wise. Because I also feel that way with its ending. Like, I was actually interested in seeing who the Hulk King was. It sounded like Hulk Ling because people were wondering if it was going to be Hulk Ling from the comics, which I guess it wasn't. But I was like, I wonder who that's going to be. I hope it's not surprise. It's a famous character from the comics, and I hope it's someone from the show. And it was that. But I also thought the stealing of her blood was going to lead into something. Like, I was invested in some of this stuff. And then for them to be like, oh, this is stupid and take it away. I didn't like that. Like, that's
Now,
just how I feel.
you see, for me, I was actually fine with that. I didn't mind like the just whole kind of like meta, just like poking fun at itself aspects of that. That's where like the fourth wall breaking kind of worked for me because again, it just gives the show more flair that I really want more of these Marvel shows to have. I don't want all Marvel shows to be like that specifically, but just kind of like those different beats and just making it stand out more.
Sure, but at the same time as that, like, they're acknowledging that, but they're still, like, adhering to that very structure at the same time. Like, they're acknowledging it, that doesn't change the fact that they're still doing it.
I'm not saying it's flawless, and like, but I mean, overall, it's just the main crux of the show of just She-Hulk's character. I thought was just a really nice like breath of fresh air for Marvel, and especially with Marvel on TV right now.
Yeah. And I thought Tatiana Maslany was really, really good as Jennifer
Oh
Walters.
yeah, she's great.
And
Yeah,
I thought a lot of the actors in it were good. Like, I thought Ruffalo was good with what he had, and Charlie Cox is really great as Matt Murdock. And I love Benedict Wong, and Tim Roth gave a very quirky performance. And those
right.
guys you all expect to be good, but a lot of the supporting characters, like, they're underdeveloped, but they're fine in their roles. Like,
Yeah.
I liked what's his face, Pug. I thought he was good. I thought
Mhm.
they were gonna make him the Hulk King since he's such a blank slate of a character that maybe it's him. Like, I mean,
Right, yeah.
I was glad it wasn't because I thought the stuff where he was like undercover as like a douchey dude was really entertaining in that finale.
Yeah.
And not that I think Marvel have put out nothing but home runs since Endgame. I think they've put out better stuff than this, like WandaVision or even Spider-Man.
Right, yeah.
On that note, they also released a Halloween special.
They did. Um,
So Werewolf by Night, what do you think?
I thought it was pretty good. There's
Cool.
not much to really say. I mean, it was well done, and I honestly had no idea that Michael Giacchino is interested in directing, and it was neat because he also did the music for it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's interesting to see, like, how you can, conduct both of those areas of film. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty neat. Kind of wish it was. I'm not like it's weird because it's not like I'm in a rush to see, more of these like Marvel projects right now because we're just so overwhelmed with everything we're getting right now with Marvel. But it was interesting to see like just this kind of different thing going on. It felt very
A man thing.
standalone-ish. A Man Thing. Man Thing was great. He was awesome in there.
Yes.
But I mean, that's great. Your only like comic booky thing in here is Man Thing, and he was wonderful. But yeah, I'm curious to see how Marvel does with these like little specials. Obviously, we have the holiday special. That's the next one.
I'm really
And
looking forward to the holiday special.
yeah, and then it was just announced that like Silver Surfer is getting one, I think. So,
Ah,
um, yeah, I mean, there's potential for this, but it does feel like that middle ground in between like these TV shows and movies.
yeah.
Smaller stories, but fun things to watch every now and then. But yeah, holiday special I am excited for.
Yeah. But I thought Werewolf by Night was very good. I really enjoyed it. It was a nice 1 hour, very easy to watch special. I thought it
Yeah.
was shot nicely, and I quite enjoyed it. It's just nice to see Man Thing. It was nice that Man Thing was like a practical deal there. That was nice.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
it was a totally fine special. I would not be mad if we had more of these. Like I'm not saying that we need more stuff from the MCU. Good God, like that is not what I am saying. But if they did more one-off specials like this instead of feeling like they need to, like, oh, this can't be a movie. We have to make it a show. Like, okay, like the Echo show might be really good, but I am worried going into that everyone's excited just to see Kingpin and Daredevil, and
Yeah.
I don't know if she warrants having her own show or the Agatha Harkness thing even. Like it's like that could be a 1 hour special. Like that probably doesn't need to be a 6 to 8 episode show. Like
Yeah.
I'd be fine if the Agatha Harkness thing was like next year's Halloween special.
Yeah. I mean, that would work out pretty well, honestly.
Yeah, like leave the shows to ones that feel like they can have more of an overarching story like they did with Falcon and Winter Soldier, or something that needs to be a show like format wise with WandaVision or She-Hulk. Like
Yeah.
I would stick to those as opposed to I mean I actually think Secret Invasion looks pretty neat, but I worried Armor Wars, which is apparently back on the table as a movie now.
I
Like
think it's been confirmed as a movie
yeah.
now, so
Yeah, so
it's
we don't have enough material for 8 hours of this. We got to make it a movie. Um but back to Werewolf by Night. It's nice to see them dipping their toes into horror a little bit more. I
yeah.
said that last time with Doctor Strange, but it's baby steps.
It's
Um,
baby steps. I personally wish it was a bit more gory because, you have this Halloween special. It's in black and white. It's kind of got that horror atmosphere. I wish it embraced it more. I mean, there are some pretty neat kills, but I think honestly, the Illuminati's death in Multiverse really like just caught me off guard. I was not expecting it to get like that gory and violent.
Yeah.
And they didn't even really get that gory and violent in there, but just for Marvel to do that, it was kind of surprising.
Sure. Yeah, with Doctor Strange, it's not really a horror film, but there are certainly some elements of it that are that way. But
yeah,
like Werewolf by Night, like this was a straight up horror special. Like there was blood splattering, there's creepy camera angles and creatures and atmosphere. Like I said, baby steps. We're getting there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move the fuck away from Marvel now. Let's talk about another TV show that I watched. And that is season 2 of Only Murders in the Building. Chris, have you seen the show?
I've seen season 1, so I'll let you go for all this.
All right, so I won't spoil anything too much in the second season. I'll try my best. So I'm a fan of Only Murders in the Building, and the second season finished like not too long ago. So quick explanation for those who haven't seen it. It's a show that's on Hulu. It's these 3 murder podcast listeners played by Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez, quite the trio. They start a murder investigation podcast of their own where someone in their big, fancy New York apartment is murdered. Season 1 is great. And I was watching that show weekly as it came out. And season 2, it was good, but not as good. I feel like I need to make that distinction, unfortunately. Season 1 was a pleasant surprise. Not because it was funny. Like Steve Martin and Martin Short are funny, so that wasn't the surprise. But the mystery was legitimately interesting. Season 2 is a little meta. Like they start investigating a new murder in season 2, so they're doing a season 2 in their podcast. So they talk about how things are moving slowly this season and things like that. Like they're referring to the show they're putting together, but also it's a comment on the events of the television show that I'm watching. So some of that stuff is amusing and some of it a little on the nose. And one of the things I wasn't a big fan of was they focused on more characters this time. Like some of the other tenants in the building, like minor characters from season 1, have like mini arcs that I wasn't into as much. And I was worried early on when Amy Schumer showed up playing herself. Like in the first season, Sting, like the musician, not the wrestler, is in it. And he plays himself and he lives in the building. And at one point, he's one of the suspects. And it's funny because why would Sting be a murder suspect?
Yeah.
And he was perfectly fine in the role, but he's moved out of the building this season, and Amy Schumer moves in. And thankfully, she's only in 2 episodes, and the show basically actually was never there at all after that. So at least there was that. And
okay.
Cara Delevingne was also a new addition this season, and yeah, I didn't think she was a good fit. The concept of Steve Martin and Martin Short together, like, that works. They've worked together for decades now. I've never seen them live, but the show that's recorded that's on Netflix is really funny, and I would recommend checking that out. I forget what it's called, though. But you add Selena Gomez to the mix, and it doesn't sound like that's necessarily going to work. But Selena Gomez got her start with sitcom acting. I mean, it was a Disney sitcom, but it was comedy nevertheless. Mm-hmm. So it's not like she was brand new to this. It's funny. I always think of her as an actress before a musician because I don't know her music very well. But Wizards of Waverly Place, that was a big show.
Yeah, yeah.
And she's a really good fit here. She bounces off the other 2 like really well, and that's where Cara Delevingne felt out of her depth to me. Like she just didn't feel like the right fit for the show. And they do introduce a younger character who is Steve Martin's, I guess, stepdaughter, who's probably like 19 or 20 or something like that. And there's a scene where both the moms are telling Selena Gomez, like, you got to talk to her for us. She's like, why? Because I'm a girl? No, because you're young. Like, she tries talking to her, and she uses a bunch of modern-day Zoomer slang, and it's just confused. So there's some funny stuff with having a younger person. And the mystery got good in the end, and although the reveal is a little clunky, the show ends for what the mystery for season 3 is going to be, which is the murder of Paul Rudd.
No.
And that's exciting. So it ended in a really exciting way with a lot of hints at what has caused the murder. So overall, a thumbs up. Not as good as season 1, but still really enjoyable. It's one of my favorite shows right now. It's very fun.
Okay.
All right. Speaking of enjoyable, I watched a movie that wasn't very enjoyable. I wasn't sure I was going to talk about this today, but I'm going to do it. Blonde. The new Marilyn Monroe biopic that's on Netflix. It's the talk of the town because it's awful. So, have you heard of this movie or know anything about it?
Yeah, I know it. And I was kind of interested because I know the lead actress and, she's really good, but I didn't really know much about Marilyn Monroe. I recently actually just watched, I forgot the name. Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. So, kind of familiar, getting more familiar with Marilyn Monroe, but never watched this. Never really piqued my interest as a story.
Mm-hmm. So this was based on a fictional book / exploitation on Marilyn Monroe's life.
Okay.
And upon my research on this, I discovered that there was, I think, a miniseries that was based on the book as well, made in 2001. So the signs were there. And some notable people were there before they were notable. I guess, I think Jensen Ackles is in it, Patrick Dempsey, some people that are better known today are in it. No one knows about this show, but I watched the movie, all near 3 hours of it. This is made by a bunch of tone-deaf morons. They thought this was somehow a tribute to Marilyn Monroe and sympathizes with how she was treated by Hollywood and the system and by people and over-sexualized. But this film has such a mean spirit. The film treats Marilyn Monroe like a piece of meat, really. And it depicts her as a sex-crazy dumb person. She's not smart and also as a bad actress. This is how it depicts her. They handle her miscarriages in a really tasteless manner. And the film insists, or rather, the book insists, that she was part of a throuple with Eddie G. Robinson Jr. and Charlie Chaplin Jr. And I'm not saying biopics have to be 100% historically accurate, but when you make up whole scandalous relationships and pregnancy and abortions, that's irresponsible.
Yeah.
And I will say that the score is pretty neat. I did notice that. Some of the cinematography and editing is interesting. I struggle to call it good because some of it is not at all good. And it's got constantly shifting aspect ratios, which gives me the shits. And it's not like Dark Knight or Top Gun Maverick. It's not shifting aspect ratios for IMAX. It goes from 4:3 to 21.9 on a whim. I don't know why.
It's not even a transition. It just happens.
Yeah, and it also shifts from color to black and white whenever it feels like it. I get these are stylistic choices, but they rarely feel like there's a reason behind them.
Yeah.
And Ana de Armas is getting a lot of praise for this, and I am a fan of hers. Knives Out, Blade Runner, she's great in both of those. I really like her sequence in No Time to Die, but I didn't think she was good in this. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. And people are comparing this to Mulholland Drive or Fire Walk with Me, and I understand those comparisons and where they're coming from, but it feels like a knockoff David Lynch. It doesn't feel like the genuine article.
Yeah.
I hated this. Let's move on to something that's good. We both watched a movie called See How They Run, which sadly I don't think many other people have seen because no one is talking about this.
Yeah, I thought this was a wonderful murder mystery comedy, which
it is a whodunit starring Sam Rockwell and Cerise Ronan.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's a very good film. I'll briefly describe it to people who haven't seen it yet. It's set in the 50s in London. There's a film adaptation of an Agatha Christie play that's being developed, and it's going to be directed by a character that's played by Adrian Brody. And Adrian Brody is killed. And all the people in the play and people that are connected to the play in the theater are all suspects. And it's a classic whodunit, and I loved it. And like I said, no one has seen this movie, and that makes me sad.
Yeah. No one's really talking about it a whole lot. They'd rather see Black Adam. Anyways, but yeah, no, I thought it was wonderful. The script is probably just like my favorite part of the movie. It was just so sparkling with energy, and performances were also just great all across, and just the overall like atmosphere of the movie, and how like, by the end of this it's just kind of a film of the play, but not like the film of the play that's in the movie. It was wonderful, and it was really, yeah, and really funny too. It got a lot of laughs out of me. So
Yeah, and Sam Rockwell does a very good British accent, and Charlize Ronan is very entertaining in it.
oh yeah.
It was very good. Everyone should watch it now.
Absolutely.
I know I'm being silly, but I legitimately thought it was great. But I guess that's all I have to say about that. I also watched another movie that I did not have as much fun with called Amsterdam. Did you see this?
I did see this, yeah.
Oh, it's like we planned it.
I actually saw this in IMAX of all things.
Oh no! But anyways, so this is the new David O. Russell romp. Isn't it crazy that that man still has a career?
All right, so I don't think I've ever seen anything from him.
Okay, so like,
I heard of this movie just because I saw the cast and I'm like, wow, that's a really good cast. So like I decided, hey, why not give this a shot? Thought this was the biggest letdown I've ever seen.
Yeah. So I don't think his films are that great. Like I like The Fighter, and I think Silver Linings Playbook is entertaining, but mainly because of the performances of the actors. And then American Hustle is kind of what exposed him a little bit. And then he did that other movie with Jennifer Lawrence, which I can't even remember what it's called. Joy? Is that what it was called? I might be confusing that with another Jennifer Lawrence movie. Like, I'm not bothering to look this up because I don't care that much. Like, my point is, he hasn't made a good movie in arguably 10 years, and he's been accused of doing terrible, shitty things, and all these actors came back to work with him. Yeah, this movie was boring. I didn't like it.
And it's like, I feel bad because it's just, the performances are good with like what they're giving. I mean, like these are really great actors too, you got Christian Bale, Margot Robbie, and oh my God, I forgot his name, but the man from Tenet. Well, Chris Rock's in it too, but
John David Washington.
Yeah. And it's like, you got all of that just like huge, just swarm of talent. And it's just wasted because there's nothing really happening. You never really care for any of these characters at any point. So yeah, it's a miss. It's not a hit.
Yeah. Christian Bale was very entertaining. Like his performance is the best part of it, but that shouldn't shock anyone. I mean,
yeah,
he was doing something with his performance. Like he swung for the fences. He was very quirky and very out there. But the problem was no one else was matching him at all. Like Michael Shannon a little bit, but like he's always entertaining.
Oh, I forgot he was in it too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really like Margot Robbie and John David Washington, but they were also not on the same level as Christian Bale, so that was awkward.
I think it's just because they don't have enough with their characters because there's nothing happening.
Yeah, and Michael Shannon's not in the movie that much, and he and Mike Myers are kind of a duo in it. And Mike Myers is fine in it, I guess. Yeah, just a very boring movie. And there's a scene where Chris Rock, like we said, Chris Rock is in it as well. Chris Rock was doing a typical Chris Rock kind of racial-based bit. And he was doing it right as he was standing next to Christian Bale. And Christian Bale doing his wacky out there performance, like, are both sharing this shot. And as this was happening, I was wondering if I was having a stroke because these two things like don't belong together in the same movie, let alone the same shot. So that was weird. And just for everyone at home, no one hit Mr. Rock. People hit Mr. Bale, but no one hits Mr. Rock.
I was thinking about that because there's actually a scene in the movie where he's on stage, like on the microphone, and I'm like, oh boy, Will Smith's coming out.
Yes. And Taylor Swift is also in this. And now here's the thing.
That was the best performance, actually. I take it back.
Now here's the thing. I actually didn't see this in theaters, but I kind of wish that I did with a bunch of Swift fans. Swifties, I think they're called. Because she, spoilers for this crappy movie, in the first 10 minutes or so of the movie, Taylor Swift is killed. She is pushed in front of a car, and we see her get crushed by the car. And no blood splatter or anything, but she gets trampled, and it was the kind of thing that was so shocking and sudden that I laughed.
Yeah.
And I started thinking back to when we first saw Dunkirk in IMAX, and I can see these young teenage girls sitting a couple rows in front of us. I thought, that's cool. They came out to a theater like this to see a film like this. And I saw them holding back their squeals as Harry Styles came on screen. I went, oh, that's why they're here. And here I'm like, man, imagine watching this scene where Taylor Swift just gets brutally killed with a bunch of Taylor Swift fans. That would have been funny.
And
Now,
it's so quick too, you know. It's just not in it for the rest of the movie. So
yeah. I don't wish any harm upon Taylor Swift, but just the reaction of her fans. I heard crazy fans would have been funny.
Oh yeah.
Didn't she have a new album come out recently? Not that I followed
so.
Taylor. Yeah, not that I followed Taylor Swift. I thought I saw some.
It's so hard to like. You have to be under the thickest rock to not like know anything about Taylor Swift because the fans are just that obnoxious. But
yeah, because I thought I saw something where she has a music video with Laura Dern or something like what the fuck?
Okay.
So we've approached the main event. We're going to talk about Black Adam, and more specifically, you are going to talk about Black Adam because I did not see this.
Do you have any plans on seeing it, though?
So, here's the thing. You could spoil this for me. I will probably see this with friends at some point, but I'm not invested in Black Adam. I mean, we've been joking about this thing for forever. I think I've just been entertained by the creative things that people do for the marketing, like how ABC took fake tweets about The Rock being said that the Queen can't see Black Adam.
Oh my
God. ABC was like, is this fact or fiction? This is fiction. But then someone like photoshopped this, but then you edit out them revealing that, and it makes it look like ABC are reporting that The Rock is a terrible person. Like, that's entertaining to me. I'll send you a link later. That's pretty good.
That's more entertaining than the movie. Yeah.
So, okay. Describe this movie to me in full detail from start to finish, and I will react accordingly.
Okay. So, golly, I already forgot and I just saw the fucking movie. Okay, so it starts off with like a backstory, kind of, not really, because there's a revelation that's later in the movie where you find out what actually happens with his characters. We're in spoilers. So the Black Adam that's in the movie mainly is the dad. The son's in the intro, and he's Black Adam, and then he gives up his life to save his dad or something, which was in the trailer, so that's not really a surprise. And so, yeah, now he's out because there are these, like, archaeologists that are trying to find this evil crown that'll do a thing that'll be destructive. And it's in this one city. I don't know what the hell the city's called because it's so underwritten. And the thing is, the movie tries to be smarter than it actually is by trying to actually write the city as a character and like the people in it. They fail miserably because the third act of this movie is a joke. But anyways, so they're at this like little temple thing, and they get spotted by the bad guys that are in control of the city, and this one girl knows how to speak Black Adam language somehow and somehow summons him, and he's just there now. So Black Adam's loose. And probably just like the only thing in the movie that I liked is that like when Black Adam is like first released and like he's out in the world now, it's like they kind of just do let him go crazy. And it was entertaining to watch that. The only problem is that it tries to keep that up for an extra 2 hours, and it just doesn't work.
Oh, no.
But then, like, they did something I genuinely wasn't expecting, and, like, I don't know why this is in a Black Adam movie. It actually tries to be like Shazam. There is a kid who's like a superhero obsessed kid, and they take Black Adam into like their house because he was like unconscious from a magic bullet or something, and they take him to the house, and the kid's telling him like, "Oh, these are all the superheroes, and I'm going to teach you how to be a superhero." But they do it in like this weird way where he's like, "So before you kill, yes, kill someone, you need to have a catchphrase." And this is a kid saying all of this too.
I
But
hate this.
it's presented in a way where it's like charming though, and it's like you're supposed to like laugh with it, but it's just so weird to see like a kid say, all right, so before you kill these guys, you need to make sure you have this catchphrase. And so like Black Adam's just kind of like figuring out what a catchphrase actually is. So the movie is at this point like just kind of like a watered down version of Shazam.
Do they have action figures of superheroes or like comic books of like Batman or Superman or whatever?
There's a big like wink to the audience that like when Black Adam wakes up in the apartment, he like shoots lightning at a Superman poster and it's on fire. Spoilers, Superman's in the end of the movie, but
What?
yeah.
No, I'm joking. I did actually know that the mid-credits scene or whatever.
Yeah, that got a bunch of leaks, and then they officially said Man of Steel 2 is happening, so...
Yeah, but I will say real quick, like the DC universe is so weird in that, like, why are there action figures of like Batman and Superman in this franchise? Like, why do they exist? Like they're in Shazam, and like it just doesn't make a lick of sense.
Like Shazam's like just really fun on its own, but like when you like connect it with these like past movies where like these guys are all killers, they should be marked as terrorists. And I thought like the whole point of Batman versus Superman, and like I hate that I'm actually defending that movie, but I'm gonna do it anyways. It's supposed to be like Superman's kind of a loose cannon. Like all these superheroes are just kind of loose cannons. Maybe we should like really think about if they really need to be out as much as they are. You really made me defend Batman versus Superman, but whatever. I mean, that's how this franchise started. It started off like with these quote unquote heroes, and they try to market it off as like, oh, now they're popular, they're on posters, they're action figures and everything. It works like as Shazam individually. If you don't count Shazam in the main DC thing, it works just fine. But connecting it to those older movies, it's a mess. And they do it again here because there's posters, there's probably action figures here and there of these characters. I think there's one of Batman at some point. But God, I forgot where I was. So yeah, Black Adam, he's just kind of going around now. The stupid kid, by the way, skateboards throughout the entire fucking movie. He's always on this skateboard, and it's so annoying. And then that's when the Justice Society comes into play, where you get a cameo from Henry Winkler.
What?
Okay, so there's the Atom Smasher in the movie, and he's the nephew of like the original Atom Smasher. So like Henry Winkler's on like a FaceTime call, and he's like, "Don't damage that suit," and that's it. That's all he does in the movie.
I'm just trying to imagine the Fonz as like the Atom Smasher now.
He doesn't do anything. He just says, "Don't damage the suit," and he just hangs up. Like that's it. But I will say like the Justice Society was like, well, mainly like Dr. Fate and Hawkman. Atom Smasher, I hear a lot of people thought he was annoying. I thought he was whatever. I thought the movie was annoying, but anyways, and there's also Cyclone. She doesn't really do all that much except get slow motion shots. But I mean, they were all right, I guess. Kind of wish it was their movie. There's not really much you could do with Black Adam. He learns how to by the end of the movie, Black Adam learns to be a hero that kills people. So there's that, I guess. It's not really new for DC though, but anyways. So yeah, they enter the frame. They fight a lot. There's a lot of just like repetition of them saying, "We're here to negotiate your surrender," and then he says, "No." They fight, and then they do the same thing again because there's nothing you can do in a Black Adam movie.
That sounds amazing.
Yep, I mean that's seriously what happens. Maybe like I don't know. The movie is like just so bland stylistically, like it just doesn't look appealing visually. So like it's completely possible that like I'm putting these scenes out of order and I just don't know because like nothing stood out.
I
But
have seen leaked images. I don't know if it's true or not. Is there a point where like there's like a young Rock where it's got like it's basically like Skinny Steve but worse?
I wouldn't say it's like Skinny Steve though. I don't know. There is like just like the un-Shazammed version of him,
Mm-hmm.
but he kind of just looks like The Rock just without, the Black Adam suit.
Okay.
I don't know if like what you saw was like his son in the movie. I have no idea. I think I just need to see what you were saying, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that's all going on, and then it's revealed that one of the archaeologists in the beginning of the movie is the descendant of like the old king of this town, and he wants to be back in power. So like he's the main villain and he's trying to find the crown because he wants whatever city to be great again. Um, so he's the villain and he kidnaps the kid, and so Black
So you're
Adam
telling
has to.
me there's a villain for Black Adam?
Yep. They
Uh,
managed to do a villain for Venom fucking twice. So but yeah, so they kidnap the kid, and then Black Adam kind of learns to team up with the Justice Society. And then they go and rescue him. The villain, or the human villain, kind of dies, but then they do something stupid. Uh, but I'll get to that later. So I think at this point, it's like Black Adam's like, all right, yeah, I've caused more damage than I can really do. I'm just gonna say Shazam, go back to normal, and then you guys can put me in like, frozen sleep. You guys can freeze me and whatever. And I genuinely thought like the movie was actually going to end there, which, wouldn't have been great, but that would have been so far superior to the ending it actually had, because like they were actually like building it up with like the music and like the dialogue. Like Dr. Fate had like a speech at the end of this, and it's like, you know, it should have been the actual ending. Like he gave himself up until they actually needed him again, which turned out to be 5 minutes later. um, because this movie did something I thought DC would have just been done with at this point, but it's a huge step backwards. The last 20 minutes, like the movie just kept going on. You get the main villain who died because he touched the crown or something, and like he disintegrated, but now he's resurrected as a CGI monster, and he is going to wreak havoc and blow up the city. And the Justice Society learns that they have to free Black Adam and they need his help, and he gets the iconic suit at the end with the cape and everything, because that's his character arc. He learns how to get a cape. And like that's stupid, but like whatever. It reminded me of like Wonder Woman a lot, the first one, where
right.
the first 2/3 of the movie is like just genuinely really good on its own. It's talking about war, and that it's not just good and evil. There's just a lot of moving parts in war, and it's just not it's not really in any of our control. And then the ending of the movie is just, here you're fighting a British man in CGI armor. That's what it reminded me, but like this was just more shocking because it felt like the movie was supposed to end 20 minutes ago, and then it just kept going on, and you have this big fight that just feels so like just it's just a big CGI showcase. But then they do something even funnier. They have like a Lord of the Rings style ending with the entire city fighting like skeleton demons.
Oh my god.
I'm not joking. This actually happens. The kid on the skateboard shows up in a slow motion shot, and, and everyone in town has like a baseball bat or something, and they're all fighting these demons for no reason because they think Black Adam is their savior or something. I don't know why. They just think that. But um yeah, so spoilers, they win, and
I hate this.
Black Adam is kind of like king of the city now. And the Justice Society, Dr. Fate dies. So well. But the rest of them survive, and they move on. They all do their thing. And then the post-credit scene, Superman comes back. He has the little curl.
Does he have the Superman theme?
Yes, he does. It's the John Williams one too. So it's
goody.
Yeah, that comes back. I completely forgot, but Viola Davis is also in this. She looked like she could not give a fuck. Yeah, it's fascinating because I think I heard The Rock say in an interview that this was supposed to kick off phase 1 of DC. So everything beforehand just didn't matter. It was just DC trying, DC failing, and DC just letting filmmakers go nuts, and it was actually entertaining for the most part. But now they're trying again, and judging by this, the fail again, question mark, but that seems to be determined because it was just announced James Gunn is now, co-leading this entire franchise. So
that is like excellent news for James Gunn. I'm really happy for him.
Yeah, and like even better for DC because otherwise, if Black Adam was any indication for what the future was going to be, I mean, it just feels like it's happening all over again. Like I felt like very just. I don't want to say exactly like Man of Steel, but it just kind of had that vibe of like there's no effort and there's no just iconicness going on. It's just here's an okay action movie. And Black Adam, it was until it had the weirdest ending I've seen in a long time for a superhero movie. So yeah, that's my best description of Black Adam. And like I
Very
said,
good.
I just saw this like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, whenever it came out. And I seriously like just, cannot remember like, most of the plot because like the movie overall is just forgettable. But DC fans are going to love this. I've already seen the discourse around this. DC fans are on strike for Rotten Tomatoes again because they gave it a justifiably low score. And the audience score is like at 92 or something. And they're like, I never want to trust the critics again. They keep letting me down with these scores.
When are these people going to learn that Rotten Tomatoes are not the ones that review the movies?
I don't think they understand that like the score on Rotten Tomatoes is like a demographic for like just the average, reception that critics gave the movies. It's not like one person is giving a score on a movie. It's a whole collection of critics. It literally says like underneath the score, it has like 200 something reviews on it. It's
and like of those 200 something reviews, like 40% of those critics gave it a positive review.
Exactly.
That's what that score is.
That's what it is. It's not, here's a grade of the movie out of 100%. I don't think anyone would have like the patience to do that for every movie in existence and shows too. So
and people, that's a weird thing because I've seen people out there like critics, I say in quotation marks, will give like very accurate scores of like an 81.67. Like, how the fuck do you come up with a score like that? What do you do to do that? I'm genuinely curious.
Yeah, I don't know like what the like demographic is for the critics for movies. I don't know if they have like just a prompt of like, all right, so did it get 8 points here, 6 points there? I don't know.
But I think it doesn't help that The Rock is sort of like championing like the critics are not real people. Like I think that's a direct tweet that he said at one point when critics were like trashing Baywatch.
Yeah.
He says like critics are not real people or whatever. Like there's a disconnect between critics and real people.
That's probably happening again. That's what the fans are saying.
Yeah.
This is what the fans want, you know? Well, the DC fans at least.
And I just want to get the record straight on The Rock, just in case people haven't heard this. I think The Rock is probably a really swell guy. Like, I reckon he's a really fun guy to spend time with or to hang out with if an opportunity came up. But I also think that he created, he created his own production company, and I think that's very commendable. He came to the film industry as this charismatic pro wrestler who, like, what the hell were Hollywood going to do with someone like him? Like, he can't be a typical leading man. Like, he really slimmed down for doing his days on, like, Tooth Fairy or Get Smart and those movies. And then he bulked up, and now everyone loves him, and good for him. But, he's created this production company, and he makes a lot of self-indulgent stuff. Like, he made that Young Rock TV show about his own life, where he plays himself in the future running for president. Like, I don't hate The Rock, but I do find him to be very, very cringe and very fake.
Yeah. There's a lot of ego with him, and that's kind of like just the whole creation of this movie, because I mean, honestly, how much do you really need a Black Adam movie? Like, obviously they're teasing up Black Adam versus Superman or Black Adam versus Shazam. Why don't just make that happen? You've already done that with Batman and Superman, DC. Just do it again.
So yeah, go see Black Adam.
Or don't. You're not really missing much, unless if you're a DC fanboy. This feels like a continuation of the Snyderverse, because that's what we really need right now. # restore the fucking Snyderverse.
Oh, please don't spread that. All right. You have anything else to say about Black Adam?
Just don't watch it. Nah, that's seriously all I could say. And that's not going to stop people. I mean, I know there's the quality of everything right now is, well, you either see Black Adam or you see Jamie Lee Curtis and Michael Myers go toe-to-toe again. So that's all I can really say.
How was your theater experience with Black Adam, at least? Was it at least a decent experience?
See, I went early in the morning, so I could like try to get away from the DC crowd. So it was just like a general just movie experience with like your average moviegoers. I didn't feel like I was overwhelmed with DC fans. You're never going to see me in an opening night theater for any DC movie anytime soon.
Unless if it's made by James Gunn.
Or Matt Reeves. That's just about it. But yeah. So that's my recommendation.
There you go. You heard it here first, folks. Okay. So I think that wraps up the show for today. So thank you all so much for listening. Chris, where can people find you?
You can find me on Letterboxd and Instagram. I think it's Lucky, something for both. So
yes. Nice. I am also on Letterboxd. I don't remember what my username is on Letterboxd. I think it's Galucky Time, I think. It's the same with my Instagram. And I'm also on Twitter at Alex Galucky. And I am also, you can also find more of my work on the Amazing Spider Talk podcast. I'm now the video editor for that show. So I'll plug that in now. So yeah, thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye.